Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our third webinar. Hope you can all hear me in our Pause and Prepare series. Over the past 2 weeks, I suppose FRS Recruitment have discussed topics such as CV tips, tricks to help those affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, and online interview tips. I suppose that they're slowly becoming the new norm for hiring. And we felt it, I suppose, kind of prudent for today's topic to be based around the contracts and temps industry. In recessionary times, we found that, I suppose, coming through working at the end of the last recession myself in the recruitment industry, and I know speaking to many others who've worked through it, the contract and temp industry tend to strongly grow. And I brought, I suppose, kind of two experts with me today. Niamh Kavanagh, who's head of temporary recruitment here in FRS, and David O'Reilly, who I work very closely with as managing director of Fenero. So I'd like to pass it first to Niamh and then David to just introduce themselves.
Thanks, Darragh. Look, it's lovely to be here this morning and just have a chance to chat about all things temps and contracts. I'm the head of the temporary division for FRS Recruitment. We have 10 offices nationwide. So I've been doing temporary recruitment for many, many years, and I'm not going to go there as to how many I am. But obviously, I know the business very well and love it.
Very good. And David?
Thank you very much, guys, for having me today. As Darragh mentioned, I'm MD. I'm also the chief tax guru at Fenero. We're a firm of accountants and tax consultants, so we are great crack, especially at Christmas parties. A bit of background, what we do, we essentially look after tax and payment management services for professional contractors. So essentially what that means is we allow the contractors to use one of our umbrella companies to invoice and process payroll, or we look after their own limited company. That's kind of pretty much what our services boil down to.
Brilliant. And I look forward to, as I said, there'll be some really interesting topics. Hopefully will be coming up. As I said, we're in tricky times at the moment, and probably people who've never considered this industry before will be probably coming into it for the first time. So what I would say to you is there's a questions button, ask a question down below. Please feel free to throw in any questions that you have. What we'll do is we'll run through a couple of the pre-prepared questions we have here, and we'll run through your questions then at the end. So I'll open it up, I suppose, to yourself, David. For people probably on this chat here, probably daily rate contracting is something that they've come in contact with, but maybe never done themselves. And for people who've been contracting, but maybe don't, as I said, I've seen some side of the benefits, but I haven't seen all. So what is a daily rate contractor and what are the benefits?
Sure. So a daily rate contractor, essentially somebody who doesn't take up permanent employment. Instead, they take up short-term contract roles or project roles. There's a lot of them in the gig economy, and typically in Fenero we would deal with kind of the higher end contractors, so people on €200 plus per day, all the way up to 1,500 or 2,000 in some cases, which would be nice. The average contract length that we've had in Fenero over the last 2 years was 8 months. Average daily rate €420. So generally quite highly paid, highly skilled individuals. The benefits of somebody going contracting, there's quite a few, but I suppose if we can summarize them into three. The first one is more money. Contractors get paid more money. How much more money depends on the person, the skills, the contract, but typically we see on average around 30 to 70% of a pay increase when somebody goes contracting. When you add the tax planning opportunities that contracting brings, quite often you can see kind of quite a significant net pay increase, especially kind of if somebody's considering getting, I don't know, kind of like an electric car, you can put that into a company, cut the cost of the electric car in half. Can be quite nice. The second benefit is increased experience. So due to the short-term project nature of contracting, it's quite easy to build up specified experience in particular fields. 6 months there, 6 months here, kind of 6 months in a different company, and that all benefits to the individual. The most interesting benefit of contracting over the last 2 years for us is increased flexibility and control. We've seen a lot of millennials come on board and they want control. They don't want to be walking into the boss and asking for a 2 month holiday kind of during the summer. So they'll work 6 month contract, take very few days holiday, and then kind of take the 2 months off, work 9 months, and then take 3 months off. It's great also for people coming out of a kind of retirement, working 2 days a week or 3 days a week, getting paid quite well, and being back in the workforce.
Brilliant, absolutely. And Niamh, I'm sure there's probably some crossover here, but maybe same question on temp. What is a temp and the benefits of it?
I suppose anybody can be a temp, and why people choose to temp is there's a variety of reasons, but the convenience a lot of the time. It fits, the roles fit into their lifestyle, their commute, their situation. Many people just look for part-time, or they fit it into the school runs with the school hours. They want to take their summers off, and they're what we would call professional temps. So, they would build up a good relationship with an agency that can provide them with regular, well-paid assignments that fit into their lifestyles. The advantages, I suppose, they get paid for every hour, unlike you, David. They get paid hourly for the hours that they work. They get paid weekly, and typically, temporary staff, the agency, we do their tax, their insurance, and also their holiday. So we manage their holidays and pay them, work alongside the clients in, when we can manage and take their holidays. Many people like to take roles in temping because they get to up skills, their experience, the skills that they have. They're bringing expertise and they're learning. And I think, flexibility. Many temps have to be very flexible because they go in to such different environments, doing possibly the same skills, but being adaptable to fit into an office environment or a production. And that's, they just don't want the humdrum permanent role. So it suits many, many people. And they're the benefits. They get to choose the assignments. They work up a good relationship with the agency, and the agency will actually always keep them in mind. I have a role. I want a few weeks off, no problem. And that's really how it works. Yeah.
Quite similar. Yeah.
Brilliant. And I suppose then, there's probably some clients on this call here who maybe, or people who maybe will be setting up their own company through this, as we're moving into a recession, hopefully short term, they might be thinking to themselves where they might want to set up, they have ideas, they want to work through it. So they might potentially be looking to hire contractors. So David, what advice would you give to a company maybe hiring a contractor for the first time, or why would they, I suppose, hire a contractor?
Yeah, good question. I suppose there's a few reasons why companies will typically take on contractors. The first one, if they have a project that they're carrying out, I don't know, if they're building an IT platform, they need X number of developers, testers for that period of time, and they're not going to need them after. It's much more beneficial to take them on a contract basis, but also to access a skill set that the company doesn't have. So you can bring in a skill set for 6 months, 12 months, and get some of that skills transferred to your permanent employment. With contractors, generally companies, they're looking for the individual to make impact. He wants the person to come in, make an impact straight away. And then quite often we'll see this being used by startups, where a startup will take on contractors. They're overqualified for the role, but then the company will use them and then fill underneath with less expensive permanent individuals to take on after the contractor leaves. So it depends on the company. Like multinationals would use contractors quite a lot because of a lot of project base, but we're seeing that trickle down to the SMEs as well.
100%. And same to you, Niamh. What would be the benefit, I suppose, for someone hiring a temp? I suppose probably similar type of benefits. But what would you say in regards to temping?
Yeah, look, again, Darragh, there would be a variety of reasons, but again, not dissimilar to David, but there would be special projects, perhaps where they're installing and implementing a new accounting package, where they need finance people to come in, data entry, and they need to ramp up very quickly in order to get that project done in a certain time. It could be a maternity cover, it could be sickness cover, there could be short, medium, long-term cover, and they rely on people who can come in, hit the ground running. And with the beauty of they're not permanently employed, especially in the industrial field where you have production, they could be bringing on a new line, a new product, they have a new shift. So they need to ramp up production to get the product out. So again, there's peaks and troughs in their production, so it suits them. It's a huge benefit where they can keep their costs down and they can budget for that particular product. So it could be a variety of short-term, medium, or even long-term within any sector that they would require a temp.
And do you find, I suppose, Niamh, within that then, do you find that many companies are I suppose, industries are hiring through the COVID-19 pandemic that we're in at the minute? Do you find that there's kind of an appetite in certain industries to kind of hire, or what would they be, I suppose?
Well, at the moment, I suppose, look at COVID-19, the whole face of everything has changed. But, you know, fortunately, a lot of my clients are still in operation. We're looking at production where there is essential services that have to keep going. So, you know, at the moment, a lot of our administration staff who are within companies are still working remotely, which is fantastic. They're within the pharma, within the production, within manufacturing, and they're a vital part of the business. So it's great to see that they've actually been, you know, that they're such a part of the team and a part of the company, that they are working remotely. So, you know, that's a brilliant testimony to the workforce. But, you know, we are still looking at drivers, operatives. We have, you know, in terms of technical staff coming into these production for their expertise, call centres, within finance, we have people still, healthcare, allied healthcare, and nurses. They're all still very much in demand. We're currently recruiting for them all the time. And that's us at the moment. It's business as usual. Different in other areas. There's areas where we have actually just they have a pause remotely, and then others they're going to go back up again. So look, it's always changing, but that's COVID-19 at the moment.
Yeah, it is. We're living in a different reality. You know, a different side of, like, I know on the contract side, on the tech side of things, like we've 60% increase in contract roles than we had pre-pandemic, and we're 50% down on perm roles. So that it gives you an idea where the industry is going, because the projects that were urgent pre-pandemic are still urgent. They have to be done. The problem is they can't be seen to be hiring perm people if they're letting some people in the organization go. So contracting and temping is a natural, lovely kind of way. I'd say lovely. It's no lovely about it, but it's a way around it, or the obvious kind of, I suppose, problems within it. And for yourself, David, I suppose within your industry, how's COVID-19 kind of affected you?
Yeah, thankfully, it's we got around 2,000 contractors that we service every month, and I think we lost around 25 of them due to kind of COVID-19. So it's kind of sad to see them go, but in terms of the overall percentile, it was quite small. I suppose kind of what the figures that we've seen kind of back up what you're saying, Darragh. Generally, kind of if recession is looming, if we were to believe that, then generally the contracting model, the temp model, kind of increases over perm, and that's been the feedback that we've been hearing from end clients and kind of our recruitment partners. But we got a lot of tech, a lot of pharmaceutical. Those guys they're flying, so they're still going, kind of still inquiries still coming in, and people still signing up. So it's kind of the two industries that kind of we primarily would be in haven't been affected too much.
And I suppose, I know we've touched on it a little bit, but is there a specific industry maybe that you could both that you see particular growth in across board? I know you've both mentioned a few there, but is there one particular industry maybe that you see? Maybe David kicks off there. Is there one industry you've seen that one's particularly growing? Do you know in these times?
Yeah, like our three industries that we typically be in were tech, pharmaceutical, and engineering. And those three have been grown over the last 5 or 6 years. But we've seen kind of contracting go into really every facet of the economy. Finance over the last few years, kind of a lot of contractors going into finance, which we weren't expecting. And we've even got kind of companies going to the charities. So every facet is grown. Contracting has become more popular amongst individuals, more so kind of over the last 4 years. than kind of companies, which is interesting. They're looking at the kind of the dollar signs, kind of more money, kind of getting back a little bit more time. So kind of, and we see that continuing, which is kind of what we see in the US and the UK. This is kind of a growing phenomenon.
And same to yourself, Niamh. Is there any roles that I suppose industries more specifically that you see you're seeing still roles coming in heavy doses?
Yeah, pharmaceutical.
Great.
Certainly, that is an area that that has been ramped up with every pharma business. I would also see the HSE, the healthcare. That's huge. Everybody is. It's a huge area with the scarcity. So it's helping to find and identify them very, very quickly. I certainly see the food industries and the call centers in every aspect. Yeah, that's ramped up.
Yeah, I to be honest, on the contract side, I see it myself. It's a support for us on the contract side is busy at the moment, and it's within that healthcare industry, telecoms industry, where they're kind of inundated with people panicking a little bit, with the times that we're in, and they need extra staff to kind of handle the queries and keep their time to response up to par. So we're seeing a little bit on that, which has been good so far. So Niamh, talk about it a little bit, because obviously I know you've touched on it before about when you're onboarding and the benefits of work for a temp, but how does FRS actually support someone? So say someone who's never temp before, coming from a perm role, and maybe as a side because of the situation we're in that they're going to go temp. And how does FRS support them?
Great, yeah, really good question, Darragh. I think how we support as I said, we have professional temps who work for us all the time, and they know what they're doing. But for somebody very new, it's very important that there is a lot of support and hand-holding to a degree, because whilst we meet somebody and we gain their preferences, why they're looking to temp, where they're going to feel comfortable, the first assignment is really, really important that we get it right, so that they have a really good experience, and that they don't run away saying, oh my God, I'm never going to temp again. So it's up to us and as recruiters that we really do take a good description of what they're looking for and identify the roles that we have and speak to them and support them and give them as much information as we can through that interview stage about the role. And once they feel they're okay, at that point, we talk about the roles that we have. We give them the information, and that is key. They have to have information about the role, the working hours, why is the role there, to make them feel that they're not just going in and they're going to like a rabbit in the headlights. So at that point then, once they're happy, we would register them fully register them, all the compliance, the contract, tell them where they're going, advise them on their taxation and things like that. And then we onboard them to expect what they're going to expect on the first day. And we work very closely with our clients with that. And it's really, really important that there is an induction, that there is somebody there. And that's why we have really good relationships with our clients, because that's what we expect for our temps. So they are an ambassador for us. They're going in and they're doing a job for us in another company. And that's how it works. So it's really, really important that the temp is happy and the client is happy, and then we know we've done a good job.
It's an extension of yourself, really, isn't it? So you're really working with that person.
It's really a service, absolutely. It's a service not only to our clients, it's a service to our candidates, and we're in the middle making sure that everything runs smoothly.
Brilliant. And David, same question, I suppose, for Fenero, for people moving into contracting for the first time. I know I've helped a lot of people over the years move from perm to contract, and it can be quite a daunting process when you don't know. So maybe it's maybe what support Fenero can actually provide someone moving in for the first time and the costs involved.
Yeah, and looking at the figures, so in 2019 and 2020, 60% of all of the inquiries we had were people new to contracting. In 2018, it was just around 50%, 2017 around 40%. So every year we've seen quite a significant increase in the people contacting us who've never contracted before. And we take a step back and see, okay, changing jobs can be stressful. Changing jobs and also doing it kind of in a different way of working can be overwhelming. So we step in, kind of hold our hand, give them a lot of reassurance. The first thing we do is ask them a lot of questions. We want to get kind of a helicopter view of their personal circumstances, their family circumstances, plans for the future, detail to the contract, get a nice picture, and then kind of apply kind of what tax reliefs or planning can be kind of applied to that situation. Then we come and we suggest kind of one of the solutions. Generally, somebody who new to contracting, I always recommend they go with the umbrella company. So start off with the umbrella company. It's super easy. There's no setup cost. There's no closeout cost. Our most popular option, the after-tax cost of it is around €57 per month. So it's not hugely expensive, but you get everything done for you. You get all the advice. You can still claim the expenses. Like if we're not saving you kind of our fee kind of at a minimum, we're not doing our job. And then kind of maybe 3 months, 4 months into the contract, we'll touch base with them and say, okay, kind of how you getting on? Do you like contracting? Let's have a chat about kind of possibly setting up your own limited company. As a general rule of thumb, anybody below €200 per day, generally kind of they would be temps. Kind of plus €200, kind of you're looking at kind of possibly going contracting. I like €400 per day before I start talking to somebody about setting up their own limited company.
Correct.
And the reason being, below that, you're not really taking advantage of the tax plan opportunities. So plus €400 a day, grand. Let's start having a chat about your own limited company. But you new to contracting, start off with the umbrella, and then kind of get your feet in the ground on the contract, and then come back to us and we can have a chat about kind of doing something different.
Brilliant. And I suppose to kind of finish up this kind of round of questions, maybe signs of encouragement you've both seen during the crisis. I know we touched on some of them as regards to that, but maybe Niamh, what would you see as kind of a sign of encouragement or things you've seen for people who maybe are a bit, either been let go from the role or are looking for their new role for various reasons? What would you say to that, I suppose, in regards to signs of encouragement?
Look, I think the temp and contract, it's only going to increase. I think the whole landscape of how we work within COVID has changed. Many people are working remotely. I think there is going to be some sort of a ripple effect on how we're doing our job, how we can do it differently, how we're going to adapt. And I think adapting is the word here, because the working trends may change slightly. And I think if people are flexible and willing to look at different options and how we call work permanent, whether it be temp or perm, that's really going to be an advantage, because we have to change our tack. We have to change very quickly on how we're doing our job. Even in our industry, it has changed. So it's if people are flexible and open to change, I think I would say that's the way to go.
Brilliant. And maybe David, same question.
For me, kind of taking a step back, it's time. We're going to get time is our most precious resource. For a lot of people, kind of wasting time commuting to work, that's going to change after this. Our working relationship kind of is going to change for everyone. Maybe it's not fully remote, but maybe it's 2 days a week. The biggest complaints that we received from companies before COVID was access to talent. So they couldn't get the talent. COVID is going to make the world a lot smaller place. Companies are getting used to the jobs getting done without physically seeing people at their desks. And in Ireland, we were terrible at having kind of a reputation for need to see people at the desk. I need to see them there working. Yeah. Whereas, hold on a second, it's all still getting done, and I'm not seeing the people. So I see kind of a lot more mobility in terms of companies taking on individuals, I don't know, in Donegal or kind of Kerry, kind of working in Galway. So I think this is going to make Ireland and the world a lot smaller and give us some time back. Yeah. The other advantage is kind of, I suppose, kind of family time. Like I've seen my kids do things that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do. And they may be a little bit dumber because we're doing the kind of the teaching with them, but hopefully we'll compensate for them. So kind of time and talent is kind of the two main benefits.
Yeah, I agree. I think the 9-to-5 working environment will be a thing of the past after COVID-19. I think it's funny how well, and I can only speak obviously for the FRS, but from speaking to clients that we've had, how well people have adapted has really surprised me. I thought there'd be a bigger adjustment period, but everyone I know on my team, and I think other teams around, I think I speak for Niamh as well from chatting to her, is the teams have actually really rode in, and it's but also having the access to technology we have is just extraordinary. It doesn't matter if you're perm, contract, temp. There's a lot of, I think, a vast percentage of jobs can be done remotely now.
Absolutely. And I think we're creatures of habit. I think we generally like to do the same things, and whether it be go to work, get up, get dressed, put your suit and your boots on, and that's all changed. And really, David, as you're saying, we're losing hours. We're losing what's really important here. And the fact that I said earlier, there are temps of mine who of ours that are working remotely as in temp, and that's fantastic. Like, that to me is like, that's really encouraging. Absolutely.
100%. So yeah, thanks Mill, guys. Like, what I would say for any contract related queries, please pass them on to myself. We'll send around a bit of information after this with everyone's kind of details. So anything in regards to temps, contact Niamh, and anything in regards to accountancy, finance, tax. David's happy to help you there. So please do reach out. But we will send some info to everyone here on the webinar with more details in regards to how you can go about doing that. Look, good news is I always think a webinar went well. We've loads of questions. We've absolutely pile of questions coming in.
Great.
So I'll start from the top. This one, David, will be directed straight at yourself. What about a potential equivalent? This is from Alex. What about a potential equivalent of UK IR35 legislation in Ireland? Do you think that's going to come in?
Yep, it's a really relevant question. For those of you not familiar with IR35, it's a nasty piece of legislation that he brought in the UK about 15 years ago now. And it looks through the relationship between a contractor or temp and the end client to say, okay, kind of, are they a contractor or are they kind of an actual employee? Now, I don't like the IR35 legislation. I don't think it's kind of it's doing what it was supposed to. And the UK kind of is rolling out to private companies there earlier this year. They've delayed it. I do see them changing that. Will they bring an equivalent of it out in Ireland? I do. I think it'd be a watered down version. So IR35 was kind of brought out. Kind of, it's important that individuals are protected, and generally, kind of the contractors that we work with, they're highly paid. Quite often, kind of they're on significant money, and they don't need that protection. It's the individuals kind of on low daily rates that do need the protection. So I'm all for a similar type of legislation coming out in Ireland that kind of protects the kind of the vulnerable, but then frees up the kind of the people kind of on the high daily rates to go and do what they're meant to be doing. I don't want a kind of one brush kind of across everybody, which kind of I don't think will be good for the economy.
And I think the fact that they had to delay it 12 months says a lot about how prepared they were for it, especially with Brexit and the virus. I think it's something that I wouldn't like to see implemented for various reasons. Brilliant. Next one for yourself, Niamh. How do you register as a temp?
Phone call, wherever you're living. As I said, we have 10 offices nationwide. Pick up the phone and give us a call, or they can call me directly, and we have a chat on the phone. You send in your CV, and we take it from there.
Brilliant. And that was from Peter. Good question.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, thanks, Peter.
Good question from our own lovely Maria Weaver in our Dublin office. Can you briefly explain the EU directive on temporary agency work?
Nice question, Maria. Thank you. Yeah, look, in 2008, there was since 2008 the directive is that any temp working through an agency with a client should be given the same pay. It's all got to do with fair pay and the same incentives that a perm employee would be getting. So really, what it was there to do was to protect the temporary worker, that they weren't being exploited doing jobs that for less money, so that they're getting the very same benefits.
Brilliant. And just from David, I think we chatted about this before. Temping and contracting, and just from Tom Bulger, temping and contracting and mortgage implications. Yeah, very relevant question.
Yeah, very relevant. We receive mortgage applications from contractors every week, and they're getting them. So contractors are getting mortgages. My advice to them all: use a broker that is familiar with contractors, and kind of we have a couple kind of when he wants to reach out to me. if somebody's going contracting for the first time, and this is kind of where the issue is. Somebody's going contracting for the first time and they're considering setting up their own limited company, I would say hold off on that, go through the umbrella company. Because the bank is going to ask for a copy of the accounts for the company for 1 to 2 years, which it's going to be a brand new company. So you'll get the mortgage, but it's going to be delayed. So go to an umbrella company. The umbrella company can give a copy of the accounts, and you're good to go.
Very good. And probably yourself, Niamh, there. What's the market like for accountancy payroll specialists roles at the moment?
On the temporary side, they come in and out all the time. So there's again at the moment with COVID-19, whoever's in situ is in situ, and I think talking to my clients in the next 2 weeks is going to be it's going to be business as usual for them, really. So any of the roles are going to be active again.
Brilliant. And another question here from Peter, who asked, he's been in the hospitality industry, I suppose, I'm sure, and he's operated his own business there in South Africa, which was very successful. But he'd like to get out of that into an administrative position. Do you see positions for people swapping industries like that? Is that possible?
Absolutely. I mean, that one of the beauty of temping is that we have a lot more candidates have a lot more room to use the skills that they have. So if for instance they have good Excel, good administration skills, and haven't used them, we talk to each individual and we will ask them, understand what their motives are, what are they looking for, what are they prepared. Sometimes they may have to take a step back to get that experience to go forward. So it's really negotiating what's in the market, what are they happy to do, what are they prepared to be flexible on. And if that is the case, generally most of our clients, if they're looking for somebody, sometimes it's the people they're looking for with the best work ethic that will go in there and prove it. They've a lot more to prove. So that's why I enjoy temps, because what's written on a piece of paper, what they're looking for, may be very different when you actually meet that person and say, I know. So there's definitely room, and that's why I enjoy the flexibility of temping and filling those assignments.
And it's probably the best way of getting into an industry is to start in the temping industry. If you want to go perm down the line, it's to try something.
Absolutely. And one thing I forgot to mention earlier is that a lot of our roles can go permanent. So when a temp goes in and they do very, very well, and sometimes they do so well, they're offered a permanent contract, a permanent job. Fantastic. Yeah.
Brilliant.
You're doing your job.
Question there for both of you is from Noel. If a candidate is a temp or is working through an umbrella company, what is their status after a year or more working in this way? Are they now entitled to employment protections like fixed FTEs, so fixed terms?
Yeah, I can deal with that. With the umbrella company, the same legislation that applies. So the individuals are entitled to social welfare benefits and also kind of employment legislation. I don't know, kind of I wouldn't be so familiar on the temp side, but I imagine it's the same. Niamh, is it?
Yeah, I'm just trying to. Could you just repeat the question again for me, Darragh?
No problem at all. Basically, it was if a candidate or a temp is working through an umbrella company, what is the status after a year or more of working? Are they now entitled to employment protections like FTEs?
Yeah, no, I mean the temp is a temp. It's not, because generally the assignments might be 6 to 9 months. We generally, it may not go for a long time. Sometimes they do, but they're still on a temporary basis. It's still a full-time role on a temporary basis.
Okay, brilliant. Another question here from I suppose Aina. Is there a demand or projects for companies who want temp workers for 9 months, for example, out of a year, and then rehire them in the summer months? It's probably for yourself, Niamh. For some companies, summer months might be quite quiet, so I'm wondering how trendy that would be.
I'm just trying to Can you just repeat? My headphones were going a bit funny there.
Oh, no, not to worry. No, what Aina was asking there is there a demand for project work for say 9 months out of the year and then take the summer off? I presume it's probably in relation to kids or people who work during who maybe want to take the summer off, go be with their kids while they're off school, and then go back to work in September.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's that's the whole beauty of temping, and that can be mentioned at the time of the assignment. It can be during the assignment, and when they're really, really valued, you know, when they're doing such a good job, the client will always say, yeah, I'll have them back. So that's the negotiation that a good agency should be doing on your behalf. And, you know, you are working with the agency and we will negotiate for you. Absolutely. That's
brilliant. A question for yourself, David. Actually, it's a superb question because it's something that's been asked for me many a times, and I've never been able to give a straight answer because I know it's not a one size fits all. But have you seen critical skills work permits or work permits in general given to non-citizens for contracting positions, engineering in particular for Jeff here?
It is a great question. So the law prohibits an umbrella company applying from a critical skills visa.
Okay.
And the reason being, they will not be doing the work for the umbrella company. They would be doing the work for a different company that the umbrella company would be invoicing. Yeah. So we're classified the same as recruitment companies. So we cannot apply for them. We can take on the stamp trees and stuff like that, the spouses of critical skills workers, but not the actual critical. We can't apply for critical skills.
Fair enough. And Niamh, how does that work on the temps with the visas?
With the visas?
Yes. Do you find, can you apply for it on their behalf, or do they how does that work on the temping industry?
No. If it's a visa, they would have to have their visa in order before they could come. And we would have to verify that. So whether it be a student visa, whatever, stamp 2, stamp 4, that would have to be verified. We'd speak to the employer about it because sometimes there's restrictions on how many hours they can actually work a week, because they should be studying. So that would all be in order, and then we can place them.
Brilliant. Well, that's great, guys. Thanks a million. As I said, I think it was a couple of questions we didn't get to. My apologies about that. I think we just got so many in there. I wasn't expecting that. But it's, as I said, it's brilliant to see some great interaction. I know from them questions, I learned a lot from that. What I would say, just in relation to, I suppose over the next, few months, so we're going to be doing a lot more of these webinars. Tomorrow we have an online nurses webinar with our own Chloe Hoss and Padraig Melia. Special guest Austin O'Callaghan, who works in the nursing home sector. We have a webinar on Thursdays, Future of Remote Working, with our own Colin Donnery and Kevin Green. And also our special guest there is Alison Hodgson, Senior VP of Virgin Media. So there'll be some really interesting stuff about kind of a lot of what we kind of touched on today. But what I'd also encourage you to do is please follow FRS Recruitment on Crowdcast. Give you access a lot more to these webinars as they're going. There's going to be some stuff for everyone on every webinar. I think everyone I've been on, I've learned something. So, but just a big special thanks to Niamh and David for today. And as I said, looking forward to speaking to you all down the line. And we'll send out, as I said, a bit more correspondence after this with all our details if you have any more questions.